So last year, around 4th of July, I decided it was finally time to build a treehouse. What the hell, it'd be a fun project, kids would enjoy it, take a couple months over the summer, be done. So here we are in May, following year, we're almost at a year, treehouse is not nearly done. Structurally it's mostly there, but there's lots left. And this morning, as I was walking out the door on my way to work, I noticed that something didn't look right, and I noticed that the platform on which the treehouse is built had, one of the 4 attachment points had broken. The bolt had broken, and the corner had twisted. So, I took a 2x8 that was under the treehouse, and I cut it, and I wedged it in to support the leg of the treehouse that was just hanging there. And here's the leg. Here you can see my attachment point. Pull this out, and there's the bolt that broke. I'm waiting for that to come into focus. It doesn't seem to be focusing right. Sorry about that. And if we go up, there's where it attached to the tree. This part came back, I don't know, say 18 inches it fell, something like that. So that's how I left this morning, with this 2x8 here and this 2x8 here holding up the corner. Then I talked to my wife this afternoon, and she seemed to think it had fallen further. So that, of course, filled me with a little bit of unease. But thankfully I've come home, and it's in the same poor condition it was this morning, but no worse. So here we have it. It's a little lopsided. You can see the structure of the treehouse itself appears to be wholly unaffected. It still seems to be sitting square and nice and tight. So we come up the ladder. See how the footer on that side came out. You can barely make out the nails sticking up over there. That was for the wall. Here, the footer remained attached. You can see the plate right there. It's underneath that aluminum trim. You don't actually see it, but it tore up from the plywood rather than the other way. And the other 2 sides remain attached. It's really just this one that tore off, and then the plywood cocked. So, it probably doesn't help that I've had all my decking sitting right there since the fall. But that said, if it's functioning properly, it should be able to support the decking. So, I appear to have goofed with this attachment. There's a company whose name escapes me at the moment that makes these big bolts that are essentially this versions of what I did, only they're milled out of a big piece of steel. They're cut on a CNC machine, I believe. And they're a little bit, this is a 3/4 inch bolt. I believe the commercially available ones are like 1 1/4 inches in diameter, so they're a bit thicker. And I was a little cavalier. I designed a mechanism here that would let them slide and move, because I knew one of the worst things we could do is lock the tree still, and then the movement of the tree would tear the treehouse apart. So I was very cognizant of the dynamic movement that needs to occur between the treehouse and the tree. But apparently 3/4 inch galvanized bolts are simply not strong enough, because that's the bolt. Just, there we go, just cracked. She broke. Seems to have broken. Let's see, let's slide that back. Come up here, here's the washer that was acting as a spacer. Yep, broke right there, flush with the tree. Sorry, I'm shooting this on the phone and it's not the quickest to refocus. So, that's where we stand now. I'm going to leave this, tuck that back in the tree. Tonight, I'll do a little bit more to gussy these things up. And then I have to pack for camping, and then we go camping for the weekend. So, alas, this is how she's going to get left, essentially. Temporarily secured. During the week, I'll have to borrow a jack this corner back up. And then what I believe I will do is come, maybe next weekend. Next weekend's a holiday weekend. Maybe next weekend. You see this post back here, because I only had 3 trees. 1, 2, 3 trees support it. So this corner is a post, and this corner is a nice 3/4 inch lag bolt going right through. And what I believe I'm going to do, get a nice little angle there. What I believe I'm going to do is put in 3 more posts, and not just the lag bolt, but I'm going to, that's too dark, I'm going to cut in a little bit and create essentially a shallow mortise and set a block that fits in here so it can rest on a lip down here and mechanically rest on this beam, and that'll come out and rest on this. And rather than doing it out of the ACQ, which is soft, I have some old probably 6/4 oak that I think I'll probably do it out of, because it's relatively weather resistant and just hard as hell. So I think that'll hold the weight and resist the movement rather well. So a little bit of a setback. This reminds me, when I did my first blog post about my attachment points, I referenced the commercially available ones that I was redoing, and I made these attachment points for somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 to $40 per attachment point by the time I bought these 3/4 by 10 and 12 inch bolts and the little pipe I just slip over it and the brake bracket. And they weren't incredibly cheap, but relatively cheap, because the commercially made ones would have ended up being about $150 per attachment point. And that seemed like an unnecessary expense based on the design I came up with. However, I apparently was wrong. And I got a comment on that first blog post by the guys who make the commercial ones, and he said that, you know, this design is going to be about 1/10 as strong as his design. And I don't know if it's 1/10 as strong or not. Clearly he was right in that this is not strong enough. And I had no doubt that these bolts would be weaker, but I figured, you know, everything being relative, his design was, it's something crazy, like 7,000 pounds per bolt. I mean, it seemed over-engineered, and I did guess that this was strong enough. And clearly I was wrong. So all things being equal, I guess this is good that the treehouse wasn't done. This could have damaged the decking, it could have damaged the railing, it could have damaged the children. So it's good that this happened at night in an unfinished state. And we'll refocus our efforts and repair this and get back to work on it. So that's just a quick update on what's going on with the treehouse. So far, so good. So bad? I don't know. It is what it is, I'll put it that way. And now back to work.